Welcome to the CAFMA Connect. As you can see, once again, Chief Freitag is not able to be here, so I will be covering once again. So again, you'll know that this is probably going to be a fairly short one, but it's going to be good. Topic today is navigating adversity, and joined by Captain Dennis Brown. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
I think that's important. That was a good way to say it. I invited. You said yes.
True.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. So I think some of the yes goes back to the topic that we kind of chose to discuss today, which was navigating adversity. And I think that goes a little bit to our conversation this week and some of the intention behind the training of the academy, the new recruits, and what we're trying to accomplish there. We spent most of Monday talking about adversity. We talked about resiliency. We talked about what it is, what it isn't. I know I started the day, with just some discussion, and then you came in and kind of, helped finish that discussion off. You were there with Captain Rick Olson, along with firefighter Nick Guzzo, and just providing some of your own examples of navigating adversity and where it's gotten you and how, this career influences all of us. So yes. I think before we get too far down that road, just give us a little background. Not everybody, all the CAFMA folks are probably watching this right now, and they know you.
Yes.
I didn't know we had that few of people that worked here, but for the folks that don't know you, give us a little background.
Again, my name's Dennis Brown. I'm a captain at Station 51 on C shift. I think I hit my year 20, January 1st.
I'm jealous.
Yep, very excited about that. Been a captain now for, I think, about 4 or 5 years. Yeah. I was an engineer for about 7 or 8, and I was a firefighter for about 7 or 8. Mm-hmm. So I'm a paramedic. I've kind of had my hand in almost everything in this department. I've been a hazmat tech, been in WOWAN. Did some union stuff for a long time, policy stuff like that. So I do feel like I know the district fairly well.
Sure. I just like that you're a little bit nervous right now.
More than I thought I was going to be.
This is good. You're usually making other people feel nervous and awkward.
Yes.
Man, this is awesome. Folks, drink it in right now. This is great. All right. So, been with the organization a long time. I think it's funny to note I got hired because you moved into a full-time position. I took your part-time position at 55 at the time. Yep. And that was because Armando broke his arm. So you never know how you come into the fire service. You take whatever route you can get.
Yes.
And so I followed you into that day assignment at the time. So that was kind of funny.
Lucky he hit that cow.
He did hit a cow. Yeah, you're right. Yep. Lucky for the cow, he was on a bike. So, all right. With that, kind of the topic that we hit this week with the new recruits, again, is that navigating adversity. And when we talk about that, we also talk about resiliency, which is thrown out there like anything else. You can leadership, resilience. I mean, you can throw out some of those concepts and like, what is it and what is it not? And I think, when we talk to the new recruits, one of the definitions that they gave was the ability to bounce back. But obviously, I think it's a whole lot more than that. And we kind of went through that. And I think there's a level of toughness that comes from resiliency. And I think one of the new recruits kind of talked about it like a callus on your hand. Resiliency is that level of toughness, but sometimes that toughness is built in adversity. And that adversity, if you choose to grow, can help strengthen you. And I think that's what I talked about from more of a superficial level. And I know that, you came in there, Captain Rick Olson came in there. You guys provide a little bit more of a personal, touch to that. So with that, how do you feel, you have navigated adversity in your own life, in your own career? Because again, this is not just professional. This is personal life, professional life. We don't necessarily get to choose the adversity that we go through. It just comes our way. And right. You don't always get to choose.
Yeah. There's some adversity that is going to come to you just through life. Yeah. And you don't know when that's going to come. You can't necessarily prepare for it. it's just going to happen. And then there's adversity that's going to happen to you on the department, whether that's you just trying to navigate through a 25-year career or trying to get to a certain position that you want to promote to, or even just keeping, again, that mental health. And you want to stay healthy and be able to finish your career. And I think that's would be all of our goals. So you go ahead.
We talked yesterday. You have 3 examples.
Yes.
Are you going to share all 3 of those examples today?
Yeah.
So you have 3 examples, and I think those examples, as you kind of start to break into those, I think is a good highlight for everybody. Some of the challenges that come with the fire service outside of a typical job. I think the examples that you're going to provide show a level of personal adversity that you went through. I think kind of the next one, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the next one is kind of a blend of the two. Like it was a little bit personal, a little bit professional that you had to navigate through. And then, the last one was more of just a professional adversity. There may have been some personal challenge that went in the mix of it, but really it was a professional hurdle that you had to overcome. It's kind of a blend of all 3 of those, in my opinion, kind of talking about it yesterday, which I think, again, before you go into those, is some of the challenge of the fire service.
Right.
We don't see too many accountants with tattoos of Excel spreadsheets on their arms, right?
Right.
I don't have any, but my arms aren't big enough to put anything on. So it's like you'd be looking at me like, well, what is that? Like, what do you mean, what is that? It's huge. Like, no, it's so small I can't tell. So but that's what you see. The fire service, we are branded. It's branded on our hearts. It's branded on our arms.
Right.
This is what we do. And there's a blend sometimes that doesn't always make getting through personal and professional challenges easy. So
very true.
Anyways, I'll turn it over.
Well, again, as we spoke yesterday, I feel like I have 3 very distinct, I call them events that just kind of shaped who I am and where I'm at now. The first one happened right when I got on as a reserve, right after our reserve academy. A lot of people may not know. It's not like this isn't something that I normally just share when I meet people, but I over the years I don't shy away from talking about it anymore. And that was the death of my daughter. Her name's Delaney. She died about at 11 months old. It was an accident. She drowned at home, and I was a new firefighter. It's kind of shaped just everything about me. It was life-changing. And I had a bunch of my brothers that I went through the academy with. They showed up for the funeral. They helped carry her casket. They were at my house afterwards. And through the fire service and the support that I got from them, I've always felt like I kind of had this debt that I needed to try to pay back. The problem that I faced with this was that I didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't deal with it. And that's kind of what I share with the recruits. I spent a better part of, a decade and a half dealing with it by not talking about it and trying to move on. And there is no moving on. It's a part of who I am. So there's events that happened. There's some people that were involved. The engine company that ran on my daughter, they worked for Prescott Fire. I always felt a closeness to them because of what they did. And it also has changed my opinion on what it means to be available for medical calls and emergencies, because until you've had your worst day, you don't know what it's like. And that was truly like my worst day. So,
and not to interrupt you, I truly cannot even fathom at this point what it is like. And you kind of mentioned it. I don't think there's anything you can do to prepare for an event like that. And I think you kind of highlighted also in terms of trying just to forget that that's something that's branded on your heart. And no, and I guarantee, just based on listening to you talk, listening to you share about it, that influenced, I think, down the road, your career. Not necessarily in a bad way, but in a good way. It shaped probably how you interact with the people, just based on our conversation yesterday, how you interact with people who have experienced loss as well. So, anyway.
Well, that's over my career. What I found that affects me the most, and this goes into the second event, what I'll call it, which is the loss of Granite Mountain.
Yep. Yeah.
And I wasn't incredibly close with anybody that was on Granite Mountain.
Sure.
Several that I knew, but but because of that ongoing debt that I felt like I owed, I was one of the people that started the honor guard for our department. And Rick says it best. We thought we were going in to do parades and ceremonies, and come to find out, like, next thing we know, we were doing funerals.
Yes.
And,
no, I don't mean to laugh, but like I say, you go into it with one mindset only to find out, like, well, this is not necessarily what I signed up for.
Yep.
This was not the plan.
No.
And that was an event that no one could have planned for.
And again, it was another one of those life-changing events for many, many people.
Community-changing event.
Yes. Yeah. And through that, I just happened to be down in front for a lot of the funerals. Mm-hmm. And I was interacting with families and the grieving families. And that particular day, the days of the funerals themselves, it just felt like it was nonstop.
Yeah.
Day, hour after hour, the next one was coming in. We were ready to prepare. We run through the funeral. We wanted to do the best we could. We wanted to look sharp. We were trying to fix our uniforms.
Yeah.
And then we'd do it all over again.
Yeah.
And again, that I felt like there's a couple things that have happened in my life that I was never getting help for. And up to this point, I would have nightmares about what happened with my daughter.
Yeah.
I would see her face. I'd see her in the tub. Good. Well, as you can tell, that nerve can still be a little raw.
Yeah.
And I could try to build as much callus over that as I can.
Yeah.
But I can't.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I've come to accept that, and it's a lot of why I'm willing to come in here and speak and feel very vulnerable about this in front of people, including our Reserve Academy.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's something to be learned. So, I was having problems with Delaney's death that I never really dealt with. Mm-hmm. Then I added on top of this Granite Mountain, and it wasn't necessarily their deaths directly that affected me. It was the down in front of all the families that I repeatedly saw. And then there's just the everyday we run calls. Like we see things that most people don't know that we see.
Well, I think just to kind of weigh in a little bit here, one, I appreciate your authenticity. Like, again, and the vulnerability to be here and talking about it. And I think that's where the value comes, even hopefully for the new recruits, is you don't get to choose what affects you at the deepest level. Obviously, the loss of Delaney, anybody can look at that and say, not that I can even relate, but that is going to affect you every day. No one can prepare for that to say and build up enough callus. I think you said that, well, you can't build up enough of that. That's all right. But at the same time, we run calls. And I remember even from my own self, like, I was fine for many of them. And then there's certain ones of them, like man, that one hurts. And there's sometimes I couldn't understand why. And I don't know that I could still tell you, like, well, this is this one. No, I still don't understand why. We don't get to choose which ones impact us. It's going to impact us. And we were kind of talking about it yesterday. you could have a personal life that just goes swimmingly and it goes 100% perfect. We are in a job that deals with adversity. People don't call 911 when things are going well. They call 911 when things are going bad. And so we deal with death, we deal with destruction, we deal with the loss, helping people. I say helping people. We talked about yesterday, how much training do you have with telling somebody that their loved one has passed away? And there's times when it's like, man, I could have done that better. And I have some of those my own myself. Like, man, I should have said that differently. That did not come out well at all. You don't get training for some of that stuff. You learn that in the process of it. Yeah. We deal with adversity. So you're going to be influenced in this career one way or another through the death and destruction that we get to see. So we don't get to choose. So anyways, you don't get to choose necessarily what affects the heart.
Right. And I think that some of the calls that have stood out in my mind were the ones where giving that news or seeing the family respond, mm-hmm. I was there with them, and I got to see that immediate shocking grief. Yeah. And again, this was something that I was experiencing. I dealt with it by not talking about it.
Yeah.
Not that there was any one little call or anything else, for at least for me. Like, what I found out was it wasn't necessarily their death.
Yeah.
It wasn't the tragedy itself.
Yes.
It was everybody that was left behind.
Yeah.
And now for me, I can directly relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I know what that felt like because it brought me back to that same spot. And now I was thinking, oh, I did that. Yeah. I remember that feeling.
Well, it's like Paul Harvey, right? Paul Harvey always did the rest of the story. Like, sometimes we look at, like, oh, the death, like, yep, there it is. Like, no, that's not the hard part. Sometimes, yes, that's the hard part, but what about the family that's left behind? And when you can sympathize and empathize what they're going through, it's the rest of the story that hurts the most sometimes.
Right. Well, obviously these two events were really, really big, and my career's been, fairly long. It's about 20 years now. Yeah. Probably longer as a reserve. I'm over 20 years as a reserve. Yeah. And up to this point, I hadn't really dealt with anything. I just kept adding these things that I'm going to drag around with me and carry with me, and it was starting to have an effect on me. Yeah. And it was having an effect on me at home. It was having an effect on me at work. At some point, Delaney's mom and I divorced. Mm-hmm. I ended up in another relationship. That one started to crumble and come to an end also, right around the same time that everything was going on with Granite Mountain. And it was right around that time that, to me, I faced a lot of personal adversity in my life. Yeah. And with that kind of leads me right into the next event, which was my professional adversity. Because these things were all having a pretty dramatic effect on my life, you can't separate. You're not two people. No. You're not who you are at home and who you are at work. Like that, they blend over.
There's always going to be spillage.
Yes,
especially when it hits a point, like you say. It's going to bleed over. Yeah,
and that bleed over started to affect me here to the point where my behavior was being noticed by administration, battalion chiefs, mm-hmm. all the people that you don't want to notice your behavior. So, when your behavior is good and they notice that's awesome.
It's a little different,
but when they're noticing things that you shouldn't be doing, then you get policies named after you. So I ended up testing for captain. I knew that that's where I wanted to be in my career. That was always a position that I felt like I would be able to do well in. And right at the end of that relationship that I was in at the time, I was testing for captain. Yeah. And through that process, I did well enough to pass each scenario or event mm-hmm. through the captain's testing. Mm-hmm. But during the testing, the evaluators were able to sense the same thing that the administration already knew about.
Sure.
And there was concerns.
Yeah.
And at some point after the testing, I finished the testing, the list came out. Was pretty happy with myself. Like finally, like all this other stuff was going on. Like I got to win.
Yeah.
And
you got to win in the midst of all of it. Yeah. Like you say, going through all this stuff and man, this is my win. I got this. Yeah.
Yes.
I can feel good. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got invited into administration with my captain. And that's where Chief Freitag basically sat me down and said, I got information you need. And, it was laid out for me that it was felt that I wasn't ready to be a captain. Mm-hmm. And I still don't feel like it was ever about whether or not I could or could not do the job.
Sure.
But I don't know that I was the person that they wanted to be responsible for other people and developing other people.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to summarize it.
That's not how I felt at the time. After my going through the 7 stages of grief of not getting promoted.
Yes, anger's one of those. Yeah,
yeah, that came first.
Yes.
After that happened, I came at a crossroads for myself, and what I'll say is that there was someone else on the department at the time, tested the same time I did. Ended up with the same professional adversity. It was similar, different issues,
sure.
different whatever.
Yeah.
But we came to the same crossroad.
Yeah.
And I felt like, for me, not that it had anything to do with that person, but for me, I had a choice to make. And how bad did I want to be a captain? And was I willing to have a good introspective look at myself and ask myself, what do I need to do to be able to fix this? And I decided that I did want to be a captain. Yeah. And I felt like I could be a good captain, I could be a good mentor, I could be a good leader. But in order to do that, I got to get past this.
Yeah.
And some of that, go ahead.
No, I was say before you get into the getting past it, I'll weigh in a little bit because I had the unique opportunity to sit with you and review the results of your captain's test, and I also got to sit on the interview for that initial Chiefs interview, and I didn't sit on the final discussion of it, but I got to sit on the interview and the after discussion on now what,
Yes.
And like you say. That wasn't an easy discussion either. Obviously, we know the ramifications and the frustrations that are going to come, and it's not like it was 100% yes or 100% no, but you can't say, we're going to make you part of a captain because we can trust you with most of the job.
Right.
It's ultimately, it's either a yes or a no. And again, you can be at 49% yes and 51% no, and it's still a no.
Right.
All you get is the no,
Yes.
And so there was definitely a lot of discussion. And the hard part is you can see something, but ultimately the individual has to come to some kind of realization. You can disagree with you can be a bad coach. You can have a bad coach and be like, no, that coach is wrong. You still have to respond to whatever they're doing, no matter what, to determine no, I want this bad enough to prove them wrong. Or I'm going to, just ball up and say they're wrong, and I'm going to live the rest of my life saying they're wrong with no growth. And I think before you kind of continue on, I think that's part of the navigating adversity is you're going to be faced with it. We're all going to hit that adversity in one level or another. You may not even always agree with it. I liked the other day I was listening to something, but the main point was when you face adversity, don't flinch. Don't run. Don't dodge it. Bring it head on. Embrace the difficulty and say, no, I can agree or disagree, but I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to grow from this, even if they're wrong. Even if I should have been promoted this time, I can't control that. But I can control my own response in this moment, and I'm going to grow, and I'm going to prove them wrong.
Yes. And that's a lot of what you just said was what I felt. To this day, I still think that if I would have been promoted, I think that administration and everyone else would have been happy with my performance
Sure.
as a captain.
Yeah.
I don't think that if I would have got promoted then, that I would be the captain or the husband. I'm obviously I found someone else that will tolerate me.
It's a small group, but good. Great that you found her.
Yes.
She's a saint.
She is. But I think that kind of lost where I was going with that. But if I disagreed in the fact that I think I could have been a captain, but I don't think I would have been the man that I am today. Sure. I don't think I would be the husband I am today, and I definitely don't feel like I would be the captain and the leader mentor that I could be, and what I'm still striving to be. Mm-hmm. So because of that, hindsight, I'm glad that it happened. It made me better. But there was definitely a point where I did exactly what it was that you just said, which was I disagreed. But I had to go, am I willing to stand on this? Like, am I willing to die on this hill because I disagree? Or am I willing to go, I could learn from this and I can change their mind? And ultimately, that's what I felt like I wanted to do. And I had a couple opportunities to try to make that happen. One of them, going back to the other adversities in my life, is that I've had to deal with some of that stuff. That took me going in and getting some counseling for myself, and going through that process of starting to heal, but also more importantly for me was forgiving myself about Delaney dying. And some guilt that I had that was really out of my control, but I couldn't turn it off.
Makes sense.
And I had to learn to deal with that. The other part was that, thanks to you, I think we've spoke about this before, but I still am very appreciative of you making sure that you were speaking up and giving me that opportunity to go to that Riverside leadership synopsis. And that was a very changing for me. There was some good information that came out of it. There was some, there was one of the most important things that came out of it is after I spoke to Chief Ferguson. And he asked me, like, what do I want to do about it? And he gave me a recommendation, which was to go do some 360 interviews. And it gave me a place to start with going, okay, now that I agreed to do it, and what a 360 interview is, I went back to the battalion chiefs, I went back to you, I went back to Chief Polachek, who was still here at the time, and basically said, hey, can you tell me about the worst parts of me? Which is not easy to sit through.
No.
I was given that advice, but it probably took me 4 or 5 months before I was like in a place where I felt like I was okay to come in and hear that stuff and not argue and fight.
Defend against it,
And basically decide to just embrace it. I got to embrace the challenge. I got to embrace the adversity and go,
that's one way to do it.
This is what I need to do.
This is how I'm going to grow.
And because of that, I was able to hear some trends. And, the little oddball things that may have come up, I kind of went, I'm not sure I can fix this or that or whatever. But there's definitely trends, and that I needed to work on for sure. So with working on some of those things, working on my own personal life and some mental health challenges that I felt like I needed to address, it got to a point where next time the testing process came around, a lot of things were all lining up for me in a positive way, which, I ended up meeting Heather, my wife now.
We'll just call her the Saint.
The Saint. I got to meet the Saint, and she tolerates me. Very nice. And then I was able to test again. I got promoted off that test.
Which, go back to that test, I think it's interesting because obviously you were doing a lot of work. We knew you were doing work. But again, it goes back to a little bit of trust, on our side of it. Can we trust you to be in the job? Can we trust you to be a leader of other people? Can we trust that the information you're giving them is good? And so we could see you doing work. We could see you, putting the effort into it. But sometimes change can be superficial. It can be very fickle, where it's only like, I'm doing this for the promotion, and I'm just going to prove you wrong to the point where I can get the job. We can usually tell that when we bring in outside evaluators and say, hey, evaluate Dennis in this process and give us some feedback. And it was interesting because obviously the feedback we got the first time was far different than we got the second time. We still have a few concerns, right? We're sitting there going, okay, is the change real? Is it sticking? Is this going to be a healthy Dennis in a healthy position? And what was interesting was the group that came the second time, one of those individuals had been there the first time. And it was interesting because at the end of it, we're kind of talking like, okay, give us the feedback. And the one guy spoke up. He's like, that's a different guy. And the information that came back was, okay, here's some concerns that we have. And they're like, nope, we didn't catch any of that. It's like, all right. Then that helps give us a level of security that says, all right, the change is real at this point. You made those adjustments. Obviously, long term, you can prove anybody wrong, right? But in that moment, here's some outside people that come in and say, no, we didn't see that at all. Versus the first time when they're hitting exactly, here's our concerns. Like, yes, we are concerned also. Like, okay. So anyways, it was interesting to see that was a complete 180 degrees of what we got the second time. And obviously that cleared the way to, stepping in the position.
Yeah.
And you've done very well. Yeah. And you've been in it for a while now.
Yes.
So you proved it. You're doing it.
Yes. And thank you. It's kind of strange hearing that feedback afterwards.
Well, we're doing it on video, so
Well, but hearing that, the difference between the two, and good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that, and I hope, like, there's been several things that have come up over my career now in the captain's position that I would feel that has allowed me to make very good decisions and go down the right path that I should be in, help direct and change some things that needed to be changed, like under my command, if you will.
Yeah.
So I want to say that I'm becoming the person and the captain that I wanted to be.
Sure.
It's still a work in progress.
You'll be exactly what you want to be right the day you retire.
Yeah. You only change so much.
Sure.
I am who I am.
Yeah.
And I know that.
Yeah.
But I try to wrangle it in as best I can.
Well, and going back, obviously, thank you for sharing all that stuff. Thank you for the authenticity of talking about Delaney, talking about our experience of the 19, and obviously the last one being that your role moving forward. Thank you. You don't get that authenticity very often these days, and I think that's some of what we're trying to change is that level of communication where you're sharing some of the challenges, sharing some of the struggles, because you don't always know what people are struggling with, even internally. People don't know necessarily what's going on.
Right.
And what we found is the biggest killer in terms of suicide, career suicide, because it's not just, we talk about both of those being the things that we do to kill our job and our opportunities in our job, and the things that when people actually have taken their life. The fire service, police, first responders everywhere, military still, the suicide rate is incredible. And it seems like the common thread in all of that is isolation, where you are no longer communicating with people, you're no longer sharing, you no longer have people in your corner because you kicked them out. And that's one of the things I like about the Mighty Oaks, talking about those cornermen, people, those folks you have in your life that are there to help you fight with whatever you're dealing with. They're there to help you. They're help you see your blind spot so that you can win that fight. That's what we need. We need people in our lives, and it takes an authentic conversation like you were sharing today, that and the same that you shared with the new recruits. And I think tie this back into the kind of the original discussion is we're trying to make that change. There's not a clear path for us, but in terms of an organization, in terms of you and I, we've talked about this extensively. How do we make that change to where we can give some resiliency, give a level of strength, a level of toughness to kind of get through some of the adversity, but also know the avenues of how to get help when you see that this is beyond what I think I'm comfortable dealing with. I need help. It may just be a conversation with, someone next to you, or it may be with a professional. That's all good. It's all helpful if that's what you need to get through that moment. Because ultimately, that adversity, we want to grow, we want to get better, we want to move forward. But that comes down to embracing that, not flinching, move forward, drive through it, get through it, and deal with it. Like you kind of mentioned, all of it. Some of it's going to bring it to our knees, and we can't always decide what's going to affect us. But you said it yesterday, and I liked it. It's trying to give the folks that are coming on, our newest recruits, who maybe don't have all that baggage, giving them the tools.
Yes.
Like, here it is. And I think we're working on it. I think we're giving them partial tools, like half of a wrench right now.
Right.
Like, here's part of it. We don't know where the rest of it is, but maybe we'll get it to you by the time you get through your career. Right. Maybe you'll find it, yourself. I think we're giving partial tools, but we're trying. And I think that's the goal. We're trying to get better at the mental health side, not just saying like, hey, everybody's going to struggle, because you may do very well.
Yes.
And if you're going to do fine,
Yeah,
be
good,
fine,
good,
be okay.
yes.
Yeah. And help strengthen the person next to you.
Right.
But if you find yourselves on your knees for a circumstance you never saw coming, here's some different tools. And we kind of talked about also just in terms of, I love baseball, have that pre-pitch plan. We talk to the kids all the time. The ball is going to find you. You're going to find yourself with the ball in hand, and it's that adversity. What are you going to do with it? Where are you going to go with it? And if you don't have a plan in your head, you're going to end up winging it in the left field, and you're going to screw this up. And you're screwed up for the rest of the team. So have a plan when that ball comes to you, when that adversity comes to you, have a plan to navigate through that and go somewhere with it.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said it any better. Like, that's the tools, and that was the idea that Captain Olson and myself, what we had and why we wanted to start talking to the recruits. And I think that fits in line. And I think that the resiliency conversation fits right in line with that. And as we talked yesterday, and this ties in, resiliency for your career it's obviously multifaceted. Yeah. And we want to make sure that we can get through a full 25-year career. And something that I say to the recruits, our job is not to get to 25 years and retire. It's to enjoy your retirement and
thrive.
I think that is what our ultimate goal would be for everyone. And you can't do that if you can't make it through your career. Yeah. You can't do that if you cause problems at home and you don't have a good home life away from here. Yeah. And you can't do that if you're not well balanced. Yeah. Meaning you're balancing your personal life with your professional life. Yeah. Because as the cog keeps moving and the day you retire, you get replaced. How much of your life has changed when you are no longer the firefighter? Yeah. And those are the tools that we want to make sure that I'm trying to I'll give you the hammer. You don't get any nails yet, but at least it's a step forward. Yeah. And I think that this has come a long way from where we started with talking about resiliency and mental health to where we're at today. Yeah. Like, we're having this conversation that people can listen to and share. Yep.
No, I think that's awesome. And we before we get any longer, I'll shut it down for Jonah's sake. And we, like I say, we're having these conversations, and I think that's what's the important part, trying to impart some of this on our newest members, and also at the same time, focusing on different aspects of our current members who are in the midst of the battle and all kinds of stuff. We don't always know where people are at, and trying to encourage people, reach out, get help, be authentic. No different than you sharing the day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes when I asked. Yeah. Thank you again for sharing that story. I think it's important for people to see that we don't always know who's going to benefit from our own story. Right. And I think that's, again, the benefit of these communications and the benefit of the sharing. So thank you again for the folks that are out there and listening. Thank you for listening today. If you are struggling, reach out. Don't isolate yourself. Seek out help. And there's somebody else that probably needs to hear your story as well. So have a great week and stay strong.